So you're thinking about moving here to the wonderful state of Florida, and you're probably hearing a lot of videos about what people love about it and why they're enjoying it, but probably not necessarily what people dislike about this area. Well, in this video, we got you covered. Well, I and my team here specifically dislike about living here in Florida, so stick around. What's up, everybody? This is Tim Whittemore with the Whittemore Group right here in beautiful Northwest Florida. That's right here on the Emerald Coast. If this is your first time to our channel, we do tons and tons of videos about everything you need to know about our area. Now, as a military veteran of 14 years and now military spouse, I've moved so many places. So many places. And every time that I moved somewhere, it was just such a lack of information of where to move to and what to anticipate. That's why we created this channel for you. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click that little bell so you're notified every single time we got a new video coming out. Now, honestly, we get tons of phone calls, emails, and texts each and every day from people that are moving here, got some questions, need some help, and well, we absolutely love it. So if you are coming here to the Emerald Coast of Florida, or actually anywhere else, and you need some help finding somebody to get you there, give us a call, text, email, heck, shoot us that little paper airplane, whatever you got to do. We got your back when moving here to the great state of Florida. All right, so let's get into it, why people love coming here to Florida. There's so many great reasons why. You've got the weather, you've got all these fun things to do, not to mention all the beaches, specifically over here on the Gulf Coast. And just all the great stuff that you can do versus having to deal with stuff like snow that we rarely ever see, if at all. So what are some things that people really dislike? Well, I've got top 10 things that I'm going to go through that just aren't that great throughout our state. Okay, all right, let's get into it. Number one, the highway systems suck. They really do. And it's kind of because the way things are set up here. And there's just no straight shot to somewhere. I used to live in places like Ohio and specifically Dayton, and their highway systems absolutely loved it because you could just go anywhere you wanted to in like 20 or 30 minutes, and it was great. It was right there. It was a straight shot. But here, well, there's waterways, there's marshes, there's all sorts of stuff, and there's only one or two ways to get somewhere. So there's not a whole lot of taking the side streets too much, so we're kind of stuck with that. And because of that, our traffic is even worse. Now, we do have Florida drivers, and yeah, we're a little bit crazy. Most of them that are going through here are typically tourists anyway, and they're bringing on their craziness. So mix that together and boom, you've got that wonderful thing that goes into my second least favorite thing, which is the traffic. Oh my God, the traffic. I was just down in Miami a couple of weeks prior to this video and got to experience how lovely the traffic is there. It makes myself want to punch myself in the face, and just how ridiculous people are. Very aggressive drivers, just absolutely terrible. It got to a point where I'm just like, I'll just take an Uber everywhere because I don't want to open my eyes, which is not good when you're driving. All right. But even in the other places of Florida, specifically our area, the traffic can get bunched up because of the way that the road systems are developed around here. So you're going to get a lot of pinch areas where people can't go through. So in our specific area, Destin, we have that going over the Destin Bridge, which is one of those areas. And then as you go down the peninsula, Okaloosa Island, as we call it, then going into Fort Walton, you have that same sort of thing. And because there's a big Air Force base out where we're at, you can't really go through it. You got to go all the way around it. So yeah, the traffic is pretty terrible, but again, it's pretty worth it here. Number 3 is the humidity. Now, you think humidity, it gets pretty tough during the summertime. and you're not wrong. It definitely gets really humid. I'm a triathlete and a marathon runner. So even in the hot times and I'm going out, it's like, hey, I got to get up super early to beat the heat, right? And you wake up and it's 80 degrees and it's still 92% humidity. And that's the coolest part of the day. The humidity just drags you down sometimes. If you're one of those people like me and you're like, hey, this is great, you get cleaned up, take a shower and you step out and you just can't stop sweating, that's welcome to Florida. Oh my God, it's so frustrating. And then you think that was good, it's just the summertime and it's gonna cool down. No, it sticks in the wintertime too. If you've ever been to humid climates before and it's cold, it feels so much colder. Well, it's the same thing here. Now, don't get me wrong. People up there in Michigan and New York and Maine and all those super cold places that people live, you know what cold is. But coming down here for our Florida cold, it says, yeah, it's 45, 50, around the colder parts of the year. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's in the 30s, and it's because of that darn humidity that gets us. So that's number 3. Number 4, there's not a lot of major venues here. Unless you're gonna be down in Central Florida, you've got a few. You've got Tampa, Orlando, Daytona Beach. You've got down towards Miami. But as things start to spread out, there's not a lot of big venues if you're going out to specific concerts and things like that, unless you're close to a major city. So keep that in mind depending upon where you're moving, especially with us here in Northwest Florida. There's not a big amount of venues. So if you're big, concerts, like to go to things like ballet, music, all that different things, they don't exist and you really got to travel to them. And of course, given reasons number 1 and number 2 with the highway systems and the traffic, it can get a little daunting. All right, hey, it took number 5, but I'm not gonna leave this one out, are the hurricanes, right? Hurricanes and tropical storms. And it's really just the weather. When you come to Florida, if you haven't been down here before and you go out and you're like, hey, it looks like a beautiful sunny day. And as soon as you wake outside or walk outside, there's just a huge torrential downpour coming in. Like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy. It's gonna be all day. I grew up in the Northeast, so I just assumed that a weather system was gonna come in and stay for the entire day. That doesn't happen here. 20 minutes down the road and it's sunny again with the devastating humidity, depending on what time of year that you have. So yes, the weather's kind of crazy and we do have a possibility of hurricanes, all right? But it's really not that bad depending upon what does come through here. Now, if you are moving to this area and you're thinking, hey, I don't want to purchase a house because a hurricane's going to blow it down, there are stipulations and building codes that buildings have to be up by, and you always have to carry a hurricane deductible for all those specific reasons. But in reality, they're not as bad as people say, but it can get really distracting in your normal everyday life if you've got to, put hurricane shutters on your house or wondering whether that storm's going to come up and get you and you have to dislocate yourself and your family to get out of the way of a major hurricane. Again, those are just some things you have to keep in mind. Number 6, there's really not a spring or fall. Now, technically there is, but it never feels that way. It feels like our spring and our fall time frame, especially here in Northwest Florida, is like a week, sometimes a day. You're like, oh great, it's around 40, 50 degrees out, and then within 2 or 3 days it's now 90. How did this happen? Right? And it goes back the other way too, and you're like, oh man, it's really warm this day, and then boom, it's just cold the next day. So we really don't have that really nice transition like a lot of the northern states do from the spring or into the winter to the summer, the spring time frame, or the fall. I personally love being up north for the fall. There was just lots of things to do. It's super comfortable most of the time. But we really don't have that. Sometimes we do, but I would just say that we just don't have it. All right, number 7, there's really not a whole lot of elevation change around here. I always joke that if you want to see the highest point of Florida, just stand on your tippy toes and you can probably see it from there. There's really not a whole lot. If you're looking for an area that has lots of mountains, mountain ranges and things like that, Florida is just not the place for that. There are some rolling hills as you get a little bit further north and more towards the central part or even western part of Florida, but there's really just not a whole lot of that. So if you're coming here for that, that's not going to work. All right, number 8, unless you're in a major city, there's not a whole lot of public transportation that takes place. Now there is, and it's kind of here or there, but it's not as good as some other states have it or some other specific cities to get you from point A to point B. A lot of that's kind of like driving yourself. I remember being in Texas, everything was just so far spread out and there's really no way to get there, even in their major cities. I don't know if we've been to a place like Dallas, where you're like, oh yeah, I could take public transportation to go out to see the football game. No, you can't. Go grab an Uber or drive down that ridiculous amount of space to get there. But yeah, there's not a big infrastructure here. There is some stuff here, and of course in the major cities there are, especially in Miami, but by and large for the state, you're not going to see a whole lot of that. Number 9, we kind of alluded to this due to the hurricanes, but insurance costs have gone up. The date of this video is in 2022, and well, in the last couple of years, insurance companies just have been dropping us off here in the state of Florida. And because of that, and supply and demand, our insurance prices have been going up. They've nearly doubled in that amount of time because of that. And people just don't want to insure Florida because of the possibility of a hurricane coming in. So insurance cost from, I'm just going to go back because I just got done being an agent up in Ohio, up there versus coming down here, you'd say a normal year's policy maybe $400 or something like that. Come on down here and it's, well, $32 for the same type of home, $3,200 that is. So yeah, the insurance prices are quite a bit higher, and it really is going to be dependent upon where you're going to get that insurance. Now, if you're coming from California and New York, you're probably laughing at the statement I just made because you have wonderful school taxes and property taxes are all bundled into one to make it a nice little pot for your state. But to each your own, right? Okay, and number 10 is housing affordability. Yeah. It's just been rising and rising, but it has been doing that all across the state. Florida specifically, people flooded to this state during the COVID-19 pandemic. And because of that, the demand for houses, it just shot through the roof. Now, we're midway through 2022 now as I'm recording this video. We're starting to see a slowdown of appreciation in home values. However, it's still going up. And because of that, it does drive a lot of people that want to live in this area. They just can't because of the high rents as well as purchasing for property. So yeah, it isn't the most affordable area to purchase property, but heck, if you can, it's totally worth it, despite the 10 things I just went over. So that's all that I do have you for what I and my team here personally dislike about this wonderful state of Florida. Again, it's not too much. I still live here, still don't want to move. But if you have anything else that you'd like to add or comment on, please keep it positive the best that you can. Go ahead and throw it here in the comments below. Of course, if you are moving to this area here in Northwest Florida or across the state and you need some help, please give my team a call, text, email, whatever you got to do. We got your back when moving here to our beautiful state of Florida. So again, I'm Tim Whittemore with the Whittemore Group here with eXp Realty. We'll see you in our next video.